All right. Good Monday morning, KW Prosperity. It is Matt here with John Rondi. Mary Beth is coming on in just a second. Hey, John, how are you?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Doing really well. I
All
always
right.
like chatting with you because I never know exactly where you're going to be in your house.
Well, today I'm just sitting in the same. I have this one location that I stay in for the most part, and as long as none of my kids come running through or anything
Yeah.
other, they're all adults. So when they
Yeah.
run through, it's pretty loud. So,
How old are your kids, John? I've never actually
well,
asked you that.
my youngest is 19.
Okay.
He goes to school at Syracuse. My other daughter is 20. She goes to school at Stockton.
Hmm.
And then my other two kids are out of school, and so they're 25 and 26, and everyone's home now, so it's all good.
Yeah. So you've got a full house again, right?
Yeah, man, it's great. I love it. It's
How are they
great.
holding up? Are they, because I know as kids,
Yeah,
like, I've had this conversation with a couple people
right.
in colleges. I mean, it was kind of a weird disruption to the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, it's been very much the same here. Kids. Well, they've adjusted to it a lot easier than us as
Yeah.
adults, and they do a lot of online classes anyway. They're socially more embracing to what we've now just become familiar with, which is the Zoom calls and some of the FaceTime things. They do it all the time, right? It's second
Yeah.
nature to them. So I don't think the adjustment for them has been the same as it's been for
Yeah.
us, except they're on lockdown, which is, unfortunate, because when you're 18, 19, 20 years old,
Mhm.
think about those. We talked about it before, but the high school kids that have missed out on things, and
Yeah.
the seniors in college that are missing out on things, and just anyone who's had that experience knows what I'm talking about when you go away to school, and the
Yeah.
socialization of that, what that affords. It's
Absolutely. Well, yeah,
not
no,
there.
I can't imagine. I guess graduated 10, 11 years ago now. I can't imagine my senior year, which
Yeah,
would have been a very exciting
yeah,
time. And then now you're graduating and you're graduating into a very
yep,
difficult environment
yep,
to come out in. But
yep, yep.
I guess as we shift gears towards the mortgage side of things, what are you seeing on your end since we last talked last Monday? What are you seeing?
Uh, it's I'm running out of things to I don't want to say I'm running out of things to talk about, but I'm running out of positive things to
Mhm.
contribute when it relates to when you say what's going on in the mortgage industry. So, um,
Well, positive or negative? What are you
yeah,
seeing?
well,
Because
it's again, I don't even want to say one side of the ball or the other.
Mhm.
Change is change, and we all deal with it however we deem fit. And there's some restrictions greater today than there were even last week or last month or 2 months ago.
Mhm.
So the agencies of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are putting heavy penalties on what we call buybacks, right? And I don't know if anyone else has talked to you about this, but
No,
that's
talk. Yeah, no one has. So talk to us
no one's
about
talking
that.
about buybacks. All right, so a buyback, real simply, is a penalty to a lender. And if I provide a loan to you,
Mhm.
Matt, and you close, and then you don't make your first payment, I've got to buy that back as a lender. And the typical number for buying back a loan, whether it's a conventional loan or a government loan, is a little different. But the magnitude change today is such that it would be a 10-point buyback of the loans. That's 10 points, $10,000, $100,000, right? 10 points on your
Yep.
loan amount that we buy that back. It's a penalty.
Okay.
So those are some heavy heavy things you take into consideration before you go lend.
Hmm.
And so the people with little or no money, well, no money down would just only be a VA, but the people with little money down conventionally or FHA have found this restriction as it relates to credit score, and
Hmm.
that leads the way, and that's the impetus behind why you don't want to necessarily lend to the wrong person, because if it goes into forbearance
Hmm.
or you don't make a payment altogether because you lost your job, well, now the risk again is to the lender and they have to take these loans back. So that is in the multiples of when you're doing certainly a lot of loans, it matters and it adds up. So you have to be sensitive to that.
So when we're talking about credit scores, what are we looking at as a good credit score right now? Or what are you experiencing
Right.
in there?
Well, a good credit score by measure of lending, I think in all fairness, is somewhere 680 and higher.
Mm-hmm.
680 to 700 would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything below that, you really have to have some compensating factors, right? We want to make sure that there's down payment, but maybe now reserves. So where we were never really concerned too much about reserves, money in the bank after you close on on an FHA loan, as an example, now we're looking for that, just to hang our hat as a compensating factor, so that we don't have to be too concerned about a loan that goes into forbearance or a loan that doesn't make its first payment, to my point earlier about the buyback.
Absolutely. Um, Now, I've had this conversation. I forget who it was with, but they were mentioning that if you did a pre-approval back in March, you want to make sure you
Yeah.
do one within really the last 10 days or 2 weeks. So, is that the advice that you're in line
Oh
with,
yeah.
or what are you suggesting to people that you're working with or
You
agents
you
you're working with?
you have to talk. I mean, listen. This is an ever-changing world. It's ongoing. We don't have the answers,
Hmm.
and so the short of all of it, really simply, is yeah. You have to stay current, and that means talking with your lender,
Hmm.
talking with me, and working through
Hmm.
potential changes. Because the subtle little things like what was once a no big deal.
Hmm.
Oh, I turned in a car, I'm getting a new car. Okay, that was once no big deal. But now it's a big deal for a few reasons.
Yeah.
One, because of the sensitivity of income to debt ratios. Two, because the repositories aren't even able to report in a timely manner.
Hmm.
So we don't want to get stuck in the 11th hour finding out that you got a new car and we can't get the Equifax,
Yeah.
the one repository that's been the most sluggish with regards to response time, to give us a supplement to the effect, and then have to go back into underwriting. So there's just those, I think, ever subtle everyday changes that you need to be aware of, and you need to be talking to people, talking to your lender about.
Well, and absolutely, and to that point, I mean, I've talked to a couple people, not even in the real estate world, but who were furloughed and who are still furloughed, and the impact that that's going to have. Have you
Right.
seen anybody who is furloughed get back to work, or
No,
no?
no. The best I've, hey, Mary Beth, how are you? How you
Good.
doing? Yeah, the best that I've seen so far is people that are on furlough that have had conveyed the intention that they're going to go back to work, but I haven't seen a letter
Hmm.
to suggest or support that, and I haven't had anybody that has, told me otherwise, that that they're back from a furlough. So
Um, and hey, Mary Beth, so far, John and I, we've been talking about, we're talking about buybacks, and really that right now. We were talking about, we talked a little about furloughs there, credit score, uh, buyers getting pre-approved, and doing that, really, kind of like we
right,
talked about last week, not, if somebody did a pre-approval back in March to do an updated one, because as John's saying, it's more work for the underwriters if it's, if it comes back and then,
right. You just don't want to catch. You don't want to leave things to chance. Now there's too many things that are going to change, and then if you don't address it, and that's some people will be of the position. I say people, meaning guys and girls on my side. They put their head in the sand and think, oh, well, no one's going to find out. Well, you're going to find out. It's going to come out. Everyone is looking. Anyone who's in a position of a decision-making role is going to be looking. They're going to go online. They're going to say, hey, is that business open?
Yep.
And if there's nothing online that suggests it's open, well, then how are you still working there, right? Or if your phone number that you call is not working, or it's not being picked up, or it's not being, where are you? How are you working? So no one wants to go look for this stuff, but because of the buybacks, because of the the risk that's associated with it when you're a lender. Everyone else down the line's got to toe the line and are starting to have their antenna up a little differently about how you look at a loan. Make sense?
Well, I mean, I would say to anybody who, if it's challenging to get one, you probably shouldn't get one. In that, I just feel, I just got off a call, so I was a few minutes, and then I was talking about something that was said. Just got off the call where it was saying how we see the numbers that showed up the last 2 months, and it's kind of like business as usual, not really, with a little bit of a twist. And then we don't realize that we have not felt the worst of it. Maybe to the agents and the people that are working, that are on furlough, like, it hasn't caught up with them yet to understand what the financial damage to the lifestyle.
No.
Right? So
Right.
if you are in a situation where it looks like it's a challenge for the bank to give you a loan on what they're seeing, I would say let's put a pause for a second, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you're in over your head. And you know, so
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but some people are going to have to learn patience through this time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's patience, it's maturity, it's just being reasonable. And so.
And they need to be talking with you now, even if they are in that situation, because the minute that one of the factors loosens up, changes,
Right.
it's like, now I know if this or this or this happens, then we can go.
Sure.
And having clarity on that, I think, is really important at this time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what are you guys doing outside of, you know, this is your norm, right? So this is, you're doing the Zoom calls, you're talking to a lot of people, you're trying to stoke the fires and stimulate and keep creativity. And so what else is happening? Anything that you guys are finding, you know?
Yeah. I am very involved in my church. And so I feel as if when I close up this shop, it's almost like I roll over into my church family.
Right.
Almost every night at 7, there's something going on, or I'm responsible for making sure that messages are going out and we're live on Facebook and stuff like that, because we've taken that environment to a completely virtual world. And
Sure. Yep.
for a lot of our elders in our church, we're not dealing with, 30-year-olds.
Right.
Right. So just trying to get everybody comfortable to that point, and then wanting to do it. And now it's a beautiful thing, because even last Friday we had our guest pastor from Dominican Republic on a Zoom with our people. We were translating.
Cool.
It was beautiful.
Have you played Zoom bingo? Have you tried that?
I have not.
I've done it actually with my family. We did Zoom bingo and we did Zoom Kids Jeopardy, which was actually very interesting.
That's good.
Now, where would you find those?
My sister she just did a search for Zoom or Kids Jeopardy, because I've got nieces that range from like 6 to 11. So, we didn't do adult.
Fun.
But yeah, it was actually a lot of fun.
That's cool.
We'll have to try that.
Yeah, I was invited to the call, so I don't know where she got it from, but same kind of thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, I started taking the Dave Ramsey financial piece. So that's on my Saturday mornings. It's a lot of, personal finances, going through that, cleaning up that. And other than that, it's projects around the house.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no kidding. That's what we're all doing, the same kind of thing there when it comes to the house needs.
Yeah. So
I
see that in a lot of our leaders, that we're taking the time that we're not having to commute and run around to like literally fill up our entire day and schedule. So we're like 3 times as efficient.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, not having to commute like 40 minutes both ways, it's just, I still start my days earlier, yet I'm more purposeful with the hours I'm putting into it. And I am able to, read for a solid hour each night, to, make sure I walk for a full hour. I think there's that. And I also think from the office level, John, to your question, another thing that we've been doing is normally we would just be doing Red Day this month. Yet now we've changed it to Red Month, where we have a GoFundMe link set up, and we'll be supporting our local EMS, firefighters, all of that, providing meals. And I think, one thing I've seen through the last 2 months is just how, not just our office, but just how supportive communities are in general. Like
Right.
people want to
Yeah,
support,
of course.
even though we're not actively with each other, these GoFundMe links and everything, you see so much support. I mean, with the last month when we provided food for the local hospital, we raised, what was it, like $3,000, $4,000 in just like 2 days.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's close to 4,000.
Yeah.
Wow, good stuff.
Yeah.
So I
All
think
right.
that's something that we're really, you know, I would say we're being very proactive with what we're putting out there, whether it's these Zoom trainings, whether it's Red Day, Red Month.
Right.
I think the thing is we're just being very visible, and I think
No,
that's
you guys are.
We
Oh,
actually, we
yeah.
had a super talented individual join us this week. Well, last week.
That was last week. Yeah. Yeah, I was on that.
Official. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's pretty awesome. Jose Rosado Jr. Welcome back to KW. So we're doing that, and we got some. Just working. We're working it. It's given us some time. I mean, I feel also right now an agent, and for those of you who are watching, is that an agent is more likely to meet right now because they can meet in their home and we can have an hour-long discussion on their business. And
Sure.
so Matt and I are so willing to, if you know anybody out there at a different brokerage and is looking to see if they can collect on a
Make a
business
change.
consult. Yeah,
Sure.
or even just a business consult to even like look
Yeah.
at their business.
Yeah, why not?
We're
Right.
pretty skilled at pointing them to the fact that there's some challenges that we could be the solution for.
Some better opportunities, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, you guys
Absolutely.
have some great alignment, and yeah, you're doing more than most.
Well-
I've said this before, so that's pretty a credit to you guys. So
Well, I think, and
good work.
same with, John, thank you for really coming on from
Yeah.
week one
Week one.
when we did this. I
Right.
think the key was that, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there were sections of people who really just stopped and who really were like, okay, I'm pausing and just shutting down.
Right.
And then, I think with us, we just kept going business as usual, because the second you stop and get out of your routines and your habits, it's so hard to restart.
Oh, of course.
Even for me,
Yeah.
I'm still waking up at 6 o'clock, 6:30 every morning because I don't want to sleep until 7:30, even though I could, just
Right.
because I have to keep, you have to keep, it's so hard to restart if you stop.
Yep. Repetition, routine. It's the secret sauce to anything, to anyone who's calls themselves, thinks of themselves, references themselves as being successful. There is a routine, and that is something you can't take for granted. You're absolutely right, Matt. But with all that being said, yeah, this is a different time. I'm just interested. These Zoom calls that we do every week,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're great.
Mm-hmm.
I just really would love to know the impact it may be having on others. And so I'm not afraid to change direction.
Mm-hmm.
If there's another venue, another form in which a way we can get to a larger audience, I think that becomes the next page. And it would be a mistake to just say, all right, let's keep doing it because we already started it. Well, we don't need to just keep doing it this exact way because we just started it that way. We have to tweak, enhance, have some latitude and some flexibility to figure out what presents to the audience the greatest upside. And so I would challenge you guys to answer that for me, because I don't know. I talked to you two.
I would challenge you to think a little bit about that also.
Well, I have my own ideas. Right, but
then I'd love to hear them.
Well, okay, so one of my ideas is this. You have 3 mortgage people in the MSA.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, each one of us has a day of the week.
That's right.
That's great. We are probably redundant in some of the things that we're talking about. And that's understandable. We are not going to be consistent in the way the message is delivered because we're 3 very different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's cool. Well, I would love to see and think there's a way to uniform a mortgage call, whether it's the 3 of us that understands our part and our role to talk about with the audience of the KW Prosperity agents. But we need to get, I think from my vantage point, I need to get the agents further engaged into really making sure they're hearing some of this, right? I don't know that they are.
But what would that be? What I mean, if
That could be
you're saying,
a once a week call where all three of us are on it, or one of us is on it once a week, but the audience is the majority of those people that need to hear it, right? Which is your agents.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say to you, well, who's listening to us, who's watching? Every once in a while, I'll get a text message, or I'll get a message on here, like we did last week, that someone had a call that we took offline, and that's fine. That's great.
Well,
But I know there's a lot more depth to it that we can be.
I mean, a couple things I would say, John, in terms of like the audience, I agree. I mean, I'm always game to tweak things and to evolve and to change things. I think, through this platform and the Facebook page, I mean, there's always people when I look back that have tuned in and watched. I think one thing, and I think we could definitely consider doing either one call or things like that. One thing I would suggest is maybe like if you targeted maybe specific people that you've worked with that you'd want to have on the call to share some experiences, or maybe you target certain agents in our office to invite them specifically to this Zoom call. Because one thing that Mary Beth and I want to do is, and I think one of the reasons we want to keep them separate, and Mary Beth, I would like build as many relationships as possible with you and give this as your opportunity to showcase who you are, because you're amazing. Like, I love working with you. I love seeing you in the office. I can't wait to see you again. But I think it's an opportunity for you to reach out to our pool and say, hey, I'm doing a call at 1 o'clock on Monday, and we're going to talk about XYZ. Like, if you gave Mary Beth and I 2 bullet points of like, hey, even if it's a 15-minute call, I just want to talk about buyback, and I want to talk about credit scores, then we can market to that.
Okay, so I've had my own, to your point, agents that I work with, both in KW and out of KW. And it's very interesting. So if I put out 5 meeting calls, Zoom or Skype, 5, if I put 5 out, probably 2 out of the 5 jumped on it with me, just a one-on-one call. And it would either be because schedule wasn't right timing or something came up, and so there was no real urgency around it, right? It was just, well, I'll get you next week kind of thing. And that's fine, that happens. But I'm finding interestingly, a lot of people, both men and women, they don't want to go do this. They just don't want to do the camera thing. So I don't know if it's a comfort, if it's an excuse, if it's something that,
I mean, you can always invite them on and just have them do the voice aspect.
I'm going to do it. No, we're going to do it. For next Monday, I'll invite at least one person of relevance to my world to come on to talk about something of a specific nature, whether it be a transaction that we did together, or something, that's meaningful to their.
And to Matt's point, though, is if we knew what the topic was, or the even if it was just one, you're saying 1 or 2 bullet points, even if you gave 1 and you were prepared with 2, then we could really just market to the message. And we can make that look sexy,
Sexy? You got my attention now.
People, exactly. Absolutely. You got to make it look sexy, and you want them to get on, and you're going to make it a quick 25 minutes and, or 20 minutes, you make, it's the way it could be marketed. And I really think that it could be the spotlight with Johnny. And
John, I think also, last thing I would say on this topic.
That's what it is. Here's Johnny, right?
I like that. And no, here's Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah, here's Johnny.
It's shining.
Shiny and Johnny.
I love it. I would just say, the last thing I would say on this is, there was a time where I was like, I don't know how the Zooms are being received, not just with you, but just all the ones we're doing.
Right.
Yet the impact that we're having, I think a lot of times you don't notice. Like, I do agent care calls every week to check in on our agents every Thursday. And I can't tell you how many people say, I haven't plugged in live, but what you guys are doing are amazing. It's great to know that it's there to plug in when and if I can. So when I hear those types of things, like, just realize that even if people aren't plugging in right on the spot, the impact that we're having, that you're having on the audience, is one that 1 month from now, 3 months from now, they're going to remember that. And
They're going to remember.
you for taking the time out of your day to speak to us.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, good. Well, this is a good takeaway because for Monday, I will have one person join us with a specific message or agenda or, piece of content that we can share if for no other reason, kind of rotate this and reshuffle the deck a little bit.
Perfect.
Right? Keep it fresh.
Well, thank you, John, for coming on with us today. I have to pop off to 1:30.
Okay. Sounds good.
Definitely. We look forward to next Monday.
All right. Bye. See you,
Thanks,
Mary Beth.
Bye.
Take care. Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.